everybody. It's me, Carmine DeStefano, the Bookman. And now that I've seen Fantastic Four, I want to tell you whether or not it sucks. Because this movie's been getting bombed by the critics. I have actually read a few critical critiques of this movie, and they have nailed it every single which way they could. That it was badly written, that the special effects were horrendous. They have just been crushing this movie, and especially when it came to my good friend Frankie Love and his perception of whether or not people would actually want to watch this movie, I wanted to see it at this point for the sake of figuring out whether or not it was actually that bad or if it deserved any of this criticism. And I have to admit that it's hard for me to really say whether or not it would be universally good. I thought it was really good. I was pleasantly surprised. I was really pleasantly surprised. I was never a big Fantastic Four guy. You know, Fantastic Four had its real apex back in the 60s and 70s and whatever. It's a legendary concept. It's a legendary group for Marvel Comics, but it's kind of one of those things that didn't really evolve as well, if you know what I mean. Like, it didn't really evolve. Like, it's there and people know about it, but it didn't really evolve. Well, I had a comic one time that had a sub-storyline involving Mr. Fantastic that inspired an idea for myself, but it never really was something that, I mean, I knew of them, but it was so, I'll put it like this, it was so obscured in its, I guess, I don't want to say absence, but in its kind of, well, obscurity, that when the original two movies came out at the same time of the Incredibles, which was Pixar, Disney, and whatever, people were saying, how come the Fantastic Four ripped off of the Incredibles? No, it was the other way around. The Incredibles ripped off the Fantastic Four. So that's how forgotten it had really been over time. And I really thought at this point, not because of the special effects, but because of the manner in which they used to make comic book movies, that even though I enjoyed the whole in-theater experience of seeing the original Fantastic Four movies, and even though Jessica Alba's clothes came off, which I always enjoyed, in fact, I probably would have made a movie 2.5 hours long of her taking her clothes off for 2.5 hours, and would have thought it was a great movie. But even though those were the cases, and those were my opinions of those movies, they were still an embarrassment. Just like the Spider-Man trilogy, the original one, was an embarrassment. When you're talking about these real deep-rooted issues that each comic book hero and heroine seem to have, and the villains as well, especially the Marvel villains and heroes and heroines, because there's more depth to them than the DC ones. But when it comes down to the bare bones of what makes these people do what they do, what inspires them to do what they do, it is so deep, dark, morbid, macabre, whatever you want to call it. Like, for instance, with Batman. The guy, as a child, saw his parents get gunned down right in front of his face. That's tough. Spider-Man, his parents died, and his uncle gets shot because of a mistake that he made. He blames himself for the death of his uncle. That's deep. So the whole thing about these heroes, to make them goofy and playful and have this sort of colorful backdrop, that's an embarrassment. That's not, they should be taken seriously in that sense. And this movie that I really, really appreciated, its screenplay and its setting took into consideration that the people that would see this movie weren't just a bunch of goofy people that love colorful comic books with pretty things going on, that it was real, it took you seriously. It took your intelligence level seriously, and I appreciate that. It didn't sort of curb anything, it didn't child anything up, it didn't make anything stupid for you, it didn't dumb anything down. It really threw, like, when they get their powers, it's not like, hey look, my arms are stretching, hey, Sue's turning invisible and her clothes came off, hey, Johnny's on fire. Like, there were scenes when they first got their powers that made you go, what the fuck am I watching? Like, you forget at some point or another, especially because, well, I'll get into that later. You forget that you're watching a Marvel comic book movie. Like, you really do at some points, because it is that severe. It is really that intense. Like I was saying, the scene when they become, I don't want to give anything away, but the scene when they get their powers, you have Reed's body is all stretched out and he's like sedated and he's like, what happened to my friends? And, you know, and they're kind of just keeping him under sedation for whatever reason, like to keep him from feeling pain or so that they can study him, whatever it is. And then he finds a way to get out and he sees his friend Ben, who's now Thing, or the Thing, is solid rock, and Thing like reaches up to him, asking him for like begging him to help him, and he like and Reed's like, I'll fix this, I swear, and he like gets it, like it's so Johnny is on fire, screaming, like it's incredible. It's just you sit there going, what the hell, man? It's really sick, and there is not one instance where, even though there were some playful aspects to it, there might have been a couple of jokes here and there wasn't any of that roll your eyes, wah wah, you know, and like. Pretty much every Marvel movie or every comic book movie has that roll your eyes, wah wah, comedic bullshit, stupid, childish, corny comedic. You know, like, for instance, Captain America Winter Soldier, which I thought was a really good movie. The part when she shows Captain America the scar and she goes, bye-bye bikinis, he says, yeah, I bet you look terrible. And I'm like, wah wah, yeah, she's hot, we get it, okay? She makes out with him and she says, now are you feeling uncomfortable? And he goes, that's not the word. Okay, he's got an erection. Wah wah, roll your eyes. The Avengers. Thor and Loki are having this epic dialogue where it's like, you know, who controls the would-be king? I am a king! You know, like all this craziness. And then Thor says, now you listen well. And then Iron Man swoops him away and Loki's like, I'm listening, like, wah, wah. You know, like, it's so like that goofy humor. This didn't do that. There was not really a moment. You could say it's clobbering time, but that's what Thing says. But there was not that moment where you just kind of go, oh yeah, whatever. You know, like this stupid comedy, you know. That's one of the things I did kind of like about Ant-Man. They sort of had a couple of those moments, but they also put in some new comedic aspects while they had serious aspects to it as well. This one was just serious. It was as if they were saying, remember that stupid ass movie that we made and that other stupid ass sequel that we made? Yeah, this is totally not like that. So they did a good job. I mean, they changed a lot of the storyline. They did. They changed, I mean, Sue Storm was now adopted. Ben Grimm and Reed Richards were friends from childhood. Ben wasn't even a pilot. Like, the guy was supposed to be one of the best pilots, and they didn't even mention that he could be a pilot, period. He was just like Reed's assistant, you know what I mean, since they were kids. There were just so many things, like Dr. Doom, Victor Von Doom, they did a really good job with. Dr. Doom, they got completely wrong. They did a good job with him overall, more or less, with the apocalyptic aspects of him, but they got it completely wrong. Look, Dr. Doom made something that Reed warned him was not calculated to function correctly. It literally blew up in his face. He thought, because he was vain and was a good-looking guy, thought that it had scarred him horribly, and he put on a mask. That's why he had the mask. It wasn't grafted to his skin. He didn't turn into steel. Whatever it was, excuse me, I've been coming down with something or getting over something, whatever the hell. So excuse my voice. But it wasn't like they're doing in the movies where he's this metal man, or you know, it might have ended up like that, but originally that's not how it was. And originally the mask was one that he put on his face to cover. I mean, they did that in the first one, kind of, but again, he was given the same powers in the same manner that the Fantastic Four had been given. This one, they sort of explained why he was stronger than... And look, you can't really have him trying to compete with Mephisto and magic and all that shit. I get it. But they sort of touched on why he had better powers than them, why he was stronger than them. Though they didn't get his origins as to why he got those powers correct. But even so, I did like the way they did his character. I did like the way they did all his characters. I really liked this movie. I thought it was really good. I liked the way they developed all the characters. I liked the way they developed everything. The pace was great for the first hour and 20 minutes. Then the last 20 minutes comes, and it's almost as though the egg timer was ticking off. It was almost as though they looked at the clock and they were like, oh shit, it's lunch, we gotta get moving. Like, it seemed as though they were making something really great. They were making something that could have been great. Could have been Guardians of the Galaxy great. And instead, at the last 20 minutes, they were like, wait, it's Fantastic Four, right? Come on, move it along. We gotta get going here. It was as if the director, the writer, and everybody that was involved in the movie itself, the physical movie itself, really wanted to make a good, great, fantastic movie, no pun intended, And the producers were like, dude, it's Fantastic Four, come on, hurry it up, let's go. You know, it just seemed like they rushed the last 20 minutes for no reason because it was an hour and 40 minutes, even with the end credits. So these movies now have gotten to and surpassed 2 hours long each. Now, for me personally, it didn't really matter because I really had to take a piss, like midway through the movie. But when you looked at it, it really needed at least another 20 minutes. It really did. To give them and Victor Von Doom and everybody a chance to really showcase what they could do. They also made Reed Richards into the Incredible Hulk, where he was sort of trying to hide from everybody, which I wasn't really into. But be that as it may, they gave you like an idea as to why these four people were so close and what kind of powers they had and how they were, you know, could be considered lethal weapons and very valuable to the armed forces, but they never actually gave you the opportunity to really see them as heroic. And they didn't give Doctor Doom the ability and the opportunity to see him as Doctor Doom. It was kind of like they were building this whole thing up, and then it was, whoop, here comes the last 20 minutes, better hurry up, quick, come on, we gotta get going. You know, it just seemed as though it really didn't get a chance to be as great as it should have been. As it is now, it's a really good movie, and since it's the end of August, or it's the beginning of August, meaning it's the end of the summer, I mean, since it's the ending of the summer and there aren't really any more blockbusters coming on, I mean, I always talk about the trailers. They showed the Deadpool trailer, like the PG Deadpool trailer, so you don't hear Weasel, I think it's Weasel, telling him that he looks like Freddy Krueger ass face fucked the topographical map of Colorado, whatever. Like, you don't hear that. And you didn't hear Blind Al say he sounds like he's got a dick in his mouth. Like, these are things, and he doesn't go, motherfucker, when he sees the hole in his arm. You know, they showed a trailer that pretty much had all the scenes, just not the ones we've seen from Comic-Con and everything. They also showed the trailer for the new Star Wars movie, The Force Awakens. The one that shows you all these different images from the original trilogy, the 4, 5, and 6. Said you go, oh yeah, that's right, 4, 5, and 6. Oh wait, that's every one of the trailers. They fucking just doing that. They're just going to retread 4, 5, and 6, so why bother seeing them? But anyway, they showed those trailers and a couple other ones I really don't give a shit about, but whatever the case, they showed these trailers, and the movie itself is pretty good, but really there's nothing else going on right now. 2016 looks like another exciting year, but right now, this is all you have pretty much at this point. Unless you want to see Jurassic World again, and Avengers is still out. So unless you want to see those again, if you're looking for a summer blockbuster, I would say see this, because it's really good. I mean, I was really impressed. Oh yeah, Ant-Man 2. You can see Ant-Man 2 if you want. But I was really pleasantly surprised with this movie. But I do have to say, to top off what I was talking about with how it looked rushed, there was no Stan Lee cameo that I was aware of. There was no post-credit scene. There was no after-end credit scene. There was no end movie scene. And there wasn't even that message that says, the Fantastic Four will return, you know, like Ant-Man will return, or the Avengers will return, or Captain America will... There was no Fantastic Four will return, which makes me wonder, were you just trotting this one out to determine whether or not people want to see another Fantastic Four? Because don't forget, Fantastic Four introduced Silver Surfer and a whole lot of other intergalactic menaces, superheroes, whatever. So they were important in the entire canon of the Marvel Universe, but even so, they have not been granted a really good, stellar movie for themselves. This one gets it close. But again, I thought it was really good, and I thought it is very viewable, but for whatever reason, they didn't give it the full compliment like they always do. So it's up to you if you want to see it. I would suggest seeing it if you're looking for a new movie this summer. I would say see it while it's still out. If you're not interested in the comic book movies, you won't want to see it anyway. But if you are, I'd say see it, because it will pleasantly surprise you, I'm telling you. And thank you all for watching. I have more for you soon to come, so stay tuned, take care, and have a great day.